All right, let's get started. So thanks for joining. I don't think today's session will require the full time, but basically the goal is to figure out what from the LTS data we might find useful for our efforts to improve the SIG release, Kubernetes release process, and what can inform our discussions around changing various things about that process, including some of the tooling. Is anybody at a SIG release meeting for the first time? Okay. I will share my screen. So I've pulled up a couple of things for us to look at. One is the Miro board, which I've consolidated. We had two earlier, and so I pushed everything onto Sasha's board, which has this process flow for the image promoter tool. Then I have the notes from the last LTS agenda, just to make sure you know what was discussed over there. And then I have some of the data from the LTS survey that let me do this as actual size. I guess it's just big, but it's the different charts that I made just to go over some of the questions, visualize them. It should be smaller though. It's quite big. Let me see. Oh, right. Okay, this is one of the dedicated. So here is actually like a bunch of charts from some of the questions, and then some charts had so much data, like this one, so many different responses that I just gave it its own tab. But we have a chat. Oh, there's an AI assistant. Okay. So I didn't know
I
who
removed it. Okay.
yeah. I didn't know who Jose was, so that answered my question. Basically, to follow up on previous points made in the last release meeting, we don't think the LTS survey data is too worthwhile for our efforts in terms of like what we can leverage from it to inform the process and the tooling changes. But there is one question that did stand out as kind of like the hinge between the two groups. So if you ask people what long-term support of Kubernetes means for them, here is what they say. And so here we have security patching for Kubernetes components for the duration of support with 152 hits, basically. So this is where there's this intersection between what we've been talking about here and what that group plans to do with the data that they've collected. Any initial response from this group about that data point? Or any of these other responses? Anything? I'm sorry, did I lose audio or am I not hearing people now? Just doing the sound check.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, okay. I was actually wondering if I could hear you. So any response to this data?
Sorry, what was the question exactly?
I'm asking if you have any reactions to what's on the screen. this data
Yeah, so
responses.
the security patch fig is kind of interesting, but it might not necessarily help image promoter thing, but there's like when we talk about artifact validation, so we talk about like artifacts in general, and the security assets that we generate, like SBOMs and other stuff, and eventually if we get to provenance stuff and so on, like, are those actually helpful to users? Our users are actually aware of those? Is there anything that we can make it a little bit better for users to discover if they are affected by some security issue in Kubernetes? It can be useful in that way. But for that, we will definitely need another survey where we
Yeah, that's why we're
actually...
here. We're talking about creating another survey that gets specific about our needs. What I'm asking here is this is a data point from the LTS survey that seems to be the intersection between that group's work and this group's work. So here's where we firmly see that there's 152 responses to the level of, making security patching for Kubernetes components better. And that's what we've been discussing all along, making the process over here more secure, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm asking you is, I just wanted to know if there were any initial reactions in terms of what this data point says for this group that we could use like as a lever to frame the work that we're about to discuss. And the goals of this meeting is described in the invite. We're reviewing the findings and then figuring out what else we want to ask in a different survey. So that's the new survey focused on artifact validation, getting insights to inform our release related efforts. So that's what we're here to do. Okay.
Yeah.
So what
Yeah,
I'm
then
asking
definitely.
is, this is
Yeah, sorry,
framed
go ahead.
for what we talk about through the remainder of this time.
Yeah, then definitely one thing to discover and with users. So when we make that survey is like how folks are aware of security stuff that we are doing,
Okay.
and like what is exactly that they expect from us. Because I think from that side, we have been doing some amazing work, but at least publicly, we didn't receive much feedback for it. So we don't really know how many users are, for example, using SBOMs, or how many users are using whatever stuff that we ship along with our containers and stuff like that. So asking users that, okay, what exactly do you need? We provide
Yep.
this, but what exactly do you need? Is something that maybe sounds like a basic question, but something that is much needed at this point for the artifact validation efforts.
Yeah. So that's what we have here. We already covered that ground. That's our goal for any survey. This issue is about getting survey data. And so in previous sessions, we mapped out those basic questions, right? So again, what we're here to do now is break that down into some survey questions. And through that conversation, we might also think about other things we want to do, okay? So I had the issue on the board, but I've now just pulled the content of it here. So it's easily discoverable by all of us. Like these are the things that we want to know. How are they using these different, like what are they aware of for these different ingredients? Some questions about whether, how applicable this is to the respondents. Does it describe their needs and concerns? Some questions that would emanate from like our assumption here. And then just finding out how people will use the images and what they expect to have. So we're all aligned. Now I would suggest we just try to figure out what we ask, okay? We got Justin Santa Barbara. My question would be, what are Kubernetes components? That's a great, yeah. Let's not assume that everybody has the same understanding of that. So let's put that on here. Could we break down Kubernetes components? Because we may want to ask people questions about specific components.
Sounds
What
good.
would we
It's also
define?
helpful to frame the survey.
Huh?
It's also helpful to frame the survey and we can say, we expect answers about these components. And if you have questions about these components, you can reach out there and there. Like at least we will be able to have a clear scope and direct users to the appropriate channels if they want to discuss about some other component.
Right. So what I've asked is, what are the components for this group? What would we want to have listed as specifically as components to make sure that we have a common understanding with our survey respondents?
I would
What?
like put it in 3 different levels.
Okay.
So the first level is the components that we release, like SIG release. This is like Kube API server, kubelet, and like the control plane and node part, like the binaries that we release once the release process is kicked off.
Okay.
So
Do you
like
actually
this
just
is
want to
the
type it in the chat and then I can post it on the board? It'll save time. If you just write it out, or you can write it on the board directly. I
sounds
don't
good.
take notes for everybody. Okay.
Yeah.
So why don't you just write them out? I'll make 3 post-its for the different levels. So there's, and then you have 2 more. And you can call that whatever you want and put them. Are you able to get into the board? Do I need to share access? I don't see typing or activity yet, so.
Okay,
Oh.
I posted on chat what I had on some chat.
Okay, so. Does anybody want to add anything more to this? Yeah.
Yes, from our perspective, what is the benefit of going for level 2 and 3 and not just combining them?
From my perspective, because different projects might have different release processes, for example, and they might need to do some stuff in different way. So it's like that we make a clear, like let's say, put it a clear message to the community that we can control what we have on level 1, but on level 2 we can provide the recommendations and try to control it as best as we can, but that it might still be up to sub projects how they handle it exactly.
Okay, so yeah, setting an expectation. Okay, does that help, Sasha? You still?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe do we want to switch level 2 and 3 somehow? I mean, node level components are closer to Kubernetes than cluster project, community projects, right?
Yeah, but now there's a little bit of a problem because we can't control those projects. Those projects are completely out of Kubernetes community. For example, the containerd, or for example, the CNI plugins and stuff like that, or concrete CNIs, for example. That stuff is not something that we have any control actually. So that's why I prefer putting it on lower level.
Justin has his hand raised.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I mean, I think the goal here is to talk to users about how they perceive things, right? And to make sure that, like, you know, if we're missing something that completely invalidates the whole effort, right, that we capture that. It's not about what we are doing today. It's about, you know, like, hey, if it turns out that Linux, it's not the case, but Linux is only supported for 3 months, like, you know, there's no point doing anything else if people require the OS to be updated all the time. So I think that's why we want to put these things in, talk to users as they perceive the world, and then map that to what we can do and should do going forwards, right? Because we know we have to make some changes here.
Mm-hmm. So based on what you just said and what we've got so far, do you have something like a core question that you think we ought to
I think we should add OS. I think we should probably add in the OS, and I think we should add in containerd. Like, do you consider these things in or out of scope of Kubernetes LTS? And because it's difficult, right? Because do we really expect that users are going to consume open source Kubernetes and get the full stack, right? I think we would say no, but if they're like, I don't know where we draw the line and what we expect users to think.
And just keep in mind also that we're not not talking about the whole LTS survey and long-term support initiative. We're really talking about
SIG release, right?
Basically this trust aspect. How do the users trust the release is secure? So that's the focus for this. Okay.
Got it. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. So bringing that back, like when we look at these components again, what is the core question that we want to ask for each? I mean, first we're getting a general understanding between respondents in this group about what component means. So we want to finalize that. And then the next thing would be about the security.
I think we discussed this before, maybe this is covered by like 3, but before like we proceed to the security part, we should make it clear that this survey doesn't apply to someone who is, for example, running or managed, like for example on EKS, AKS, and solutions like that, where the cloud providers are actually responsible for providing components and images because they're not using the artifacts that we produce. So this survey is not going to be like for those users.
Okay,
In such cases, they have to reach the providers.
Okay. Here's a suggestion. Why don't we take the next 5 to 10 minutes drafting survey questions and posting them on the board. And then we take a look at what we have. And that'll be an initial, like, get started. Because I think, we can talk forever about what, like, other things. But let's just draft some survey questions. Does everybody have access to the board to do that and know how to do that? I will put a little bucket here. And you can store your questions down here. Yeah. I would start here with like. Okay, I see about deployment size. I want to know what those questions need to be, okay? This highlighted one, let's break it down. What questions? We're actually drafting the questions that we would put in the survey if we had to do it live today. There you go. Some of these might have been asked. Okay, I'm also just seeing with the clusters, nodes, etc., that these questions have been covered by the LTS survey. We wouldn't need to answer them, ask them again. We have a data set that gives some light, sheds some light on those. Just wanted to make sure you were aware of that.
That's true, but what I was thinking is the people that are going to answer this survey might not be the same people that answered the LTS survey. I'm wondering what are they running? How are they running it? Like, what is the scale of things that they're running?
Right, but
Because
then we should point them to this, because I think if you do have people who are answering, they're gonna be like, I just answered this. So,
I think this is not really like the key part, but we, for example, want to know what might provide. I can add this as a subnote, like explanation. For example, are they blocked on some older version because we don't support
okay,
something?
I
And this
see.
is like why those questions might be useful in terms of, okay, what are you actually running? Because I left this in red, like, well, do you have any special regulatory constraints? The regulatory part is, for example, often a blocker for people that want to upgrade because, yeah, it's regulatory stuff. And like, we maybe can't make it easier for you, but we at least want to use this opportunity to hear, maybe not. How big is that a problem for you? That's why I dropped it as an idea.
Okay, so you are saying that this contextual information about their current environment situation taken together with their answers to these other questions specific to our goals, like the context is necessary to get the most complete picture for understanding
Yeah.
the responses to these questions?
Yeah, yes.
I see. Okay. Okay. Okay, are we still drafting questions, or do you want to stop and take a look at what we have so far? Is anybody still thinking and working? Okay, I'm going to take that as a no. Let's look at what we have so far. So this goes back to what we started with. Which of these do you consider to be a component? And this would be a question that would have a list of options. Does that make sense?
Sorry, yes, it makes sense to me.
Okay, and then what we would do is we would take the components that you listed out here, Marco, and then make those the choices. Yeah.
Yes.
And then I guess we could add open operating system and containerd specifically and call it a day. So I think that'd be a good list. And we can also provide an other option. Next one, just breaking up the text from the issue in GitHub. So the first one will be, how do you currently use the images? This one is next to it, but I don't think for any particular reason. So I'm just gonna drop it aside. What kinds of options would we give people for this question?
I think this is too broad because
yeah, that's why I'm asking, what options would we provide for people? I'm asking
think
you for
like
help clarify.
I think we could drop such question
I want to
because
see if we tease it out and give them options. Like, can we reframe this with more specific prompts?
I think we have such a question which is like, for example, what's going to be like interesting for the security stuff that we are doing is like, are you checking if images are signed or something like that?
There you go.
And
what other usage related questions about images could we ask? Like this.
we can, so I'm thinking about, we have like for images, maybe Sasha can correct me if I'm wrong. We have like what we can provide signed images, we can provide SBOMs for images, and we can provenance data for images. We could ask, I'm not sure, I don't think that we provide provenance data. This is like planned, but not done yet.
Okay.
We provide, and I think that we also don't provide SBOMs. I think this is not yet even part of the image promoter. And even the images are not signed because of the technical issues that we have. But this will be more like a general question, like what would you be checking if images are signed, if they are actually signed? Like, is this something that would you do? And for
Okay, so
example,
we have that.
would you use SBOMs if we provided them for your images or stuff like that, let's say from the
Okay.
provenance data?
Would you provide, would you use
Would you use, yeah.
SBOMs if we provided them? And then also provenance data.
Yeah.
And you could have yes, no, I don't know, because maybe not sure.
Yeah.
Tell me more. Okay, so like yes, no, not sure. Not sure what this means, because that would be different from not sure. Okay. A similar initial question about the images to include. How can we reframe this so it's more specific to like a yes, no, be a yes, no question?
Now that you ask this question, there's also one interesting thing that we could ask. This is about CVEs. Like, what do you expect in terms of CVEs when it comes to images? Do you expect to get like 0 CVEs, images, or close to 0? Do you expect that we provide any data related to that? Do you expect, I don't know what we can provide, like, so we could try to research a little bit more about this and ask, like, what do you expect in terms of vulnerabilities?
Okay, does that relate then? Okay, with that, so we have images being checked, SBOMs, provenance data, then data that would come with any sort of CVE in situations. Then you also just have CVEs, okay or not. So in terms of like, this is about including what is being included. And then this is about CVEs, yay or nay. So I think this question is covered by the previous one because it's things coming with the images, and then this one is just on its own.
I would just, when we talk about, for example, those 4 questions that we like are checking, signatures, SBOMs, and so on, maybe we could have a free-form question that would be like, do you expect anything else from us?
Yeah, of course. But what I was just trying to unpack is this question here. Here, I'll put this do you expect anything else? So we have that as like its own. And then here, just, do we need to do anything more around like zero CVEs?
I'm wondering because so this can also be like split to two levels. Like we have the stuff that we put in the images, for example, binaries that we put there. And we have like the base image stuff, like for example, if base image is vulnerable, what are users expecting there? Like, because I know that there are, for example, companies and people who are like really insisting it on like that that there are no CVEs at all in the components that we provided, even in the base image, or at least not critical ones. I'm not sure how we can easily recap it in the question though.
I also want us to be mindful of how many questions we're asking people. The longer the survey, the more work. So, I mean, we're keeping it good. Do I like, yes, no, rate this, rate that? But let's really focus on what questions are essential for this group to make any kind of movement forward. So if you need that, fine, but I just want to keep it on our minds. The next question is about, so just to wrap up with zero CVEs, is there anything else of this type of question so far?
I think we can leave it for now and then see
Okay.
Later on.
Okay. The next question is like the previous image related one. How are you checking the integrity of binaries today? How can we frame this to give people either specific options or, to find out if they're leveraging specific options, or like this, unpack it to be like a couple of yes, no type questions.
So we are now a little bit have a situation, we have questions about images, now we are talking about binaries. We can perhaps repeat what we asked for images, same for binaries, like, are you checking if binaries are signed? Do you assess bonds for them? Would you use the provenance data? For CVEs, it is a little bit of a different situations. But there, that question might not be much useful, I think. I don't know.
Okay, so far it would be like these 4 questions. And then we could have a section like binaries. You could start to break down the form like images, then binaries, and ask these same questions. And then the next one would be container images.
Yeah.
Okay.
How are you checking integrity of container images today? This is like the next question.
Yeah, it would be following this model.
Yeah, but we already have that above for images. Right, so we don't need it here as well.
Okay. So images, you think that the respondents will include container images, like it's all covered here.
Yeah, it's all covered here.
Okay. The last one was about documents. This is just from the issue, so I don't know if this is required or not, but it's what we said we wanted to ask them about.
So it really depends on what do we consider by documents. If we consider by documents like the stuff that we provide along with the binaries and images, security stuff, I think that question is not much useful there because we can do there what we can do. And I think like we are going to do that on best effort basis and we are eventually going to provide something. But I don't see much value in asking this.
Okay, does anyone disagree? Going once? Twice? Okay, let's remove it. the next one now, this is from you. How are you checking the integrity of other files today? So this is, to Marco's point, rather broad, and I think we have it covered, unless there's any type of file that we need to specifically ask about. Can you think of anything that wouldn't be covered by images and the binaries? And
There are
docs?
packages, but I don't really want to go into that.
No? Okay.
I
Is there,
personally don't.
but why?
Because it's kind of more complicated,
Okay.
and we are also kind of limited in what we can provide there.
Okay.
So I think, and it is a little bit different how it works. Like for packages, there are other mechanisms that are already in place, and they're by default. So yeah, I would consider it out of scope.
Are you suggesting that another group would be better positioned to ask questions related to it, or?
No, I don't
Okay.
think so.
It's this group, but you don't think it's relevant to the effort.
Yeah, it's not.
Okay. So we'll put that one aside. All right. Let's move these down. So we have a nice list. Okay. I keep opening my dictionary by accident. All right, which artifacts of Kubernetes releases do you consume directly from upstream? So I see this as being a list question where we give them the option to check off which artifacts. But did we
I
cover?
would group it. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, they're one of the ideas, especially we can just group it, and we can also say, okay, if you don't use maybe we can do it like this, that if you don't use the images at all, then you don't have to answer the questions about the images, something like this. Keep it more focused, keep the responses more focused on certain topics.
Okay, so I think I missed a bit. Like, we have this question. Yes or no, we want to ask it with a list of options? Yes?
No, I would ask, do you actually use the upstream Kubernetes container images? And then another question, do you use the upstream Kubernetes binaries?
Okay, the upstream
and packages.
Container images. And you wanted the packages question, like, do they use the packages?
Yeah.
Okay, but I guess we ruled out a deeper dive into packages over here, so I guess that's fine.
Yeah, it is. It is to know
Okay.
what people are using. I would just group those 3 questions with the first question.
Yeah. One follow-up. Do we want to know if they answer no? Do we want to know why?
Kind of, yes.
What would be, is there any way to give them options so that you can then just like instantly make a chart with the responses, like the top 3 reasons why they wouldn't use it or something?
We can.
Cool. So let's change this around a little bit further. So make some room. Okay, so if not, is this, I'll clean this up later, but why? And then you can have your 3 reasons or 4, why would they not? And then we can have an other. Okay, who's not using container images? Like, why? Why won't they?
I will write some responses, potential responses in Zoom chat.
Okay. So we'll just do Y1. Okay. Need a little more room. And capture all of my. Okay, so then you'll have some data about why. I mean, I guess you could also ask why or why not about whether they're checking images and binaries. Do you want to ask why for those? Oh, Marco, do you not have access to the board?
I do, but I don't know.
It just
My
makes a
Zoom,
lot of work for me to have to like basically put your stuff in a post-it. So it slows me
yeah,
down and it's not really great. So if you can actually
I
just
will
put them
try
directly on
here.
the board. Thanks. While Marco's doing that, again, I'll ask my question. Do we want to know why people are not checking if images or binaries are signed?
Yeah, I would agree. We should
Okay.
ask that as free-form text. I think the reasons can be various. I don't
Okay.
think we can just say this is the most common reason. I mean, technical limitations, just being too lazy
Okay.
and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
I'm wondering if providing both checklist based and freeform is efficient, because freeform might be hard to analyze. And like we can provide the checkbox based with the option like other, please leave something in freeform.
I mean, Sasha's saying it's just too difficult to know why they would not. Like, it's just too open-ended. The other ones are not as open-ended, so we have some leverage there.
There's like, I think there is a few things that can be easy to figure out. Like, I
Okay.
don't want to do this because I don't care.
Okay.
And I would like to do this, but I don't know how to do this efficiently.
Okay.
And like the third option, I have technical limitations in my environment that I can't do this.
I think that's great. Do you want to add those to?
Sure.
Cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
but
does.
on the other hand, for technical limitations, then I would ask another question. Which technical limitations, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there we can say, please leave more details in freeform.
But I think it's a great like level of granularity that you've suggested. Yeah, I don't care. I don't need to. Okay, I'm gonna pull up. think we had
Do you
this.
want me to split this to like each
No,
each
that's not
question?
necessary. I think as long as you have, it's in a good place. Yeah, it's extra work. Okay, so this bum question is kind of on its own. And yeah, we also want it under this one. For technical reasons. Okay. So I think we got those covered. Now we're looking at this one. Which requirements are missing to directly consume SIG release artifacts? That's pretty open-ended. What are we thinking of? What kind of direction can we give the respondents?
For this one, I think it should be freeform. Like, I really can't think of options that we can provide
Okay.
that are actually providing details.
Okay. Let's keep that for now. We may change our minds with the next post-its we see, but we may not. Are you using SBOMs or any similar mechanism to check if you're affected by a vulnerability? You could ask, what mechanism are you using to check if you're affected by a vulnerability, then list SBOMs and others. Like what would be some other top choices?
Security scanners, maybe.
Okay. So let's do it like this. Oh, SBOMs. Security scanners. Do we want them to note which scanner, like Trivi or something else?
Yeah, we can leave some examples.
Maybe we want to have that as its own question. I'll just put it here as a possibility for no.
Like, there's one more option there for like if you're checking, like if you're just subscribed to some mailing list or whatsoever and waiting for mail to come.
Okay, we could put that.
But I don't know how to put it.
Like which of these mechanisms are you using? And you can have like check all that apply. Okay, and then here we can have like what are some other popular ones you think people might be
I
using?
don't think we care for
Nope.
that much level of granularity here.
Okay. And then the next one, how are you running Kubernetes? So this would be like,
I think we kind of covered that by previous questions in a way, but I don't know if we should ask it explicitly or not, but
yeah, I'm just wondering where the gap would be between a managed system and still consuming some artifacts, but I'm not completely sure.
yeah, that's a problem.
I think it's fine to, I mean, it's easy. It's not like a hard question for them. This one, I think we covered above.
I think as well. Yeah, are you checking if images aside there is above?
Didn't we? I thought we just had a question like with some options.
We go. I think it's below.
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
I think we just didn't cover the cosine or integration part. So we could ask, if yes, how are you checking?
So I think there is actually not many options there.
No?
Like there is cosine, and I'm actually not aware of anything else.
Do you
I
just want
think
to,
there were some.
okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
Do you want to just ask, are you using cosine or not? Or cosine or some other integration?
I don't know, to be honest. We can leave it as an idea, but I would like put it as a low priority question.
Okay.
I know that Docker wanted to create something for signing images, but I don't think that it is still done yet.
Okay. Okay, so we got that marked as low priority. Here we also ask, did we ask about SBOMs a couple times? Okay,
we do.
This one would be, like, would you use SBOMs at all if we provided them? And here we have, which of these mechanisms are you using?
We would have to double check, like, for questions like this, for example, for ASBOS, what exactly we do provide. And like maybe rephrase questions a little bit based on that, but I think this is for ASIG in the that we check and that we see if there's any rewarding needed.
Okay. So we ask them generally if they use SBOMs at all. Do you want to ask if they use SBOMs provided by, it seems like, the Kubernetes community? You could easily say SBOMs provided by Kates and SBOMs provided by others.
I think that, yeah, we could do that.
Okay. This becomes an option. Switch these around because you would. Okay. The next question, are they blocked on an older version? Are you? Because we don't support something. How this would need to be unpacked, like based on what they expect you to provide or support. So are you blocked by an older Kubernetes version because of something missing? And then what would those missing things that SIG release would provide be? I guess maybe some of these things above, like the SBOMs, the provenance data.
I will probably leave it as the last question and say, like, I don't know, something like that. Maybe rephrase it a little bit, like, what are you missing anything that's not covered by this survey?
Okay. Use this space to share information about anything we didn't cover in the survey. Or things. Yeah, that's, I think, like anything else you want to, anything else you believe is necessary for us to help you get the release experience you need. Okay, so we'll drop that one as last. Okay, these are, I think, mirroring the questions from the LTS. How many clusters do you manage? And we can just copy that, the nodes.
Maybe we can perhaps do those two, but leave like what is the most oldest, the most recent version in your deployment.
Okay, so you want to drop these two, you said?
Yeah.
Okay. Oldest Kubernetes version deployed environment, most recent. Yeah, okay. This one I think is the finished version. So what are you missing from the Kubernetes community in terms of artifacts validation? So we kind of get at that earlier, where we're asking them here.
I think this is more similar to a question that we just recently discussed about, are you missing anything that we didn't cover in this survey?
Okay.
Like, I feel like this is kind of a duplicate.
Okay. I guess we can just put here like keep them the artifacts for validation experience you need. Okay, we have 3 more. Let's pull them over here. And then this one is kind of in a good place. Yeah, I had this, maybe this is like a good opener, rate from 1 to 10, how trustworthy you find Kubernetes releases today.
I would just say we reduce it from 1 to 5.
From 1 to 5?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the same as, I'll just do 1 to 5 for consistency. How important is it for you that Kubernetes releases are SLSA 3 compliant? And this would go with the regulatory constraints question. This one could be just the overall opener, because that's the top concern. I will need to move this all down. Okay, and then we have our
For this question about the regulatory constraints, we perhaps should come up with multi-select choice options so that you can select. It's just like, what should we mention there? Maybe we can copy from the LTS survey, but I would double check with Puerco and Carlos if there's anything else that is useful in the context of artifact validations.
Okay. So here's the answer. I think these were, maybe these were provided because they're it's quite a lot of options here.
Yeah. I
But
think there was like provide on your own, but
we could consolidate it a bit because I mean it's like some of it is overlapping or duplicate, I think. If you just had some general buckets like, DoD and SOC. Okay, so what we can put there is okay, get away. We can put draw from and then I guess if this group is really focused on SLSA 3, then we would be able to ask how important is it and have them rate the importance for that specific one. Are there any others that you would really want to call out? Maybe not. So I think what we do next is we can clean this up a bit, like make sure they're into the right category. So here we have trustworthiness. We have what's a component? And then we have like a kind of a section on images. Just color this light blue because it's like a section. Then we have H binaries section. And we don't. Okay. 511. We have maybe this is more of just like usage questions. Because then it's like, do you use this? Do you use this? Do you use this? Then you come down here and you have checking. Actually, these are all together, but they seem like separate questions. I think these go apart.
We could actually merge. Are you checking if images are signed?
Yeah.
With if no to the previous question is the why. Like we can perhaps provide more options where we ask, are you checking if images are signed? We provide more options at the beginning. So instead of yes, no, not sure, we extend it a little bit.
You want to just rewrite it as you think it should look?
Oh, sure. Give me a moment. Where is it? I will check if images aside. Oh, sorry, I don't know how to copy it. Sorry
You
for
can
moving
just
it
hit
away.
it and go like using Control C, Control V. It's just their commands.
Yeah, I can do this. Yes, no.
That's nice.
Yes, but not no, because I don't care. No, because I don't know how. No, because I have technical limitations. And at the end, not sure.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Or maybe, I don't know how or what is this?
Yeah. Okay. So I get rid of this and we have this. And then we would have maybe it's like this too.
This is really yes or no. I mean,
Okay.
I think I actually have some reason for criteria images. We can copy that.
How about we focus on the categories first, because I think that could be helpful. Hi, Nigel. So we had initially questions for each of these, like the images and the binaries. Would you use SBOMs? Would you use provenance data? Do you expect anything else?
I think that
Actually,
we are doing like kind of fine there.
okay. This is
I mean, we perhaps don't need to go into many details now, because maybe it's going to be easier to do this when we create a draft of the survey, and then maybe it's going to be easier to.
Right. That's why I said, let's put these in sections. So we're focusing on the high level. My question points to the high level. Do we have these in the proper sections? So I've looked at usage, then I've looked at checking, like, are we, you're asking, you check this, do you check that? Then we have about requirements. This is also about checking. This is about consuming art releases. This is about their setup. General Kubernetes setup. And the final question. So I guess we have this, which requirements are missing to directly consume the artifacts? Where would that, I guess we have, yeah, so far we have usage. Are you using this? Are you using that? Are you using this other thing? Checking, are you checking this? Are you checking that? Then we have, what does your setup look like? And then this last little question about salsa, which I think we can just fit there.
Actually, is this needed in favor of this last question that we have? Like, I think this is
It's
duplicate of that too.
Yeah, like use this space to share anything you believe is necessary for help. To describe.
I feel like this should cover this question too.
Yeah, agreed. Including requirements missing for you to directly consume SIG release artifacts. Okay. I would put this as like your general. And then I think we have just yeah, like this is kind of an intersection. There's two things we're measuring here. How trustworthy people think the process is today, and then what do they consider to be a component or not? And then we get into are you using this, that, and the other thing questions, checking things, general Kubernetes setup, winding up with let us know if there's
I
anything.
would move part of your general Kubernetes setup to intro as well.
Okay. Why is that?
I think like the flow is a little bit better that way. It feels like that to me at least.
It's just more like, hey, we're learning about you. Okay, can do. Yeah. Almost space. Crap. Okay. Anything else we're missing?
I think we are doing pretty good. We might discover something along the way,
Yeah, it's fine.
but I think that we have a really good framework to start drafting the
Mhm.
survey.
And it will be easy too. We're not asking a lot of, please describe this kind of questions, which is
Yeah.
important in my experience for getting people to do these surveys. All right. So I think we don't need the mirror anymore. I guess just generally, like, I think it's important to talk a little bit about just how we get the work done. Like, after the survey, we're going to get data. Do we have the people in place and the onboarding and the knowledge exchange structures in place for us to actually act on the survey data? Because we don't want to put out a survey, get all this data, and then like it takes too long for us to like act on it.
I think we do.
Okay. In the past, we used to have some bottlenecks. Have those been resolved in a way that there's more like the group feels like, hey, yeah, we know how to deal with this. We can take this on.
I think from technical side, like from the side of how are we going to act on survey, I think this is fine. The biggest problem is going to be technically getting people to respond, or in other words, reaching out to people, like making sure that we reach out to as many people as possible. And this is probably something that we should do as the very first step, like get in touch with SIG Contributors comms and with the CNCF and announce that we want to do something like this, and
Yeah,
like
that's
try to make a lot of noise about it at the beginning.
we've covered that already. We've talked about it already. Joseph and I have talked about it.
Okay.
So yeah, don't worry about any communications need. I really want to focus on, do we have the people we need to do the development work? Do we need to do any sort of onboarding? Do we need to, yeah, take care of anything to get the work going?
Yeah, I think we should have, like, artifact validation is our top priority,
Yeah.
maybe even critical priority at this point. And
We
I
just
think that
discussed it as being the top priority for the year. That's why we're talking about it. So that's resolved. I don't want to unpack and, renegotiate that one. That was decided by the group. This is top.
yeah, I think we will find development time for this.
Okay. Because we have the project board. There's still a bunch of issues there that aren't moving. So I wanted to know what we might be able to do to help empower people to like start working on some of that stuff. Because that's a lot of the investigative work to really understand what we're trying to do, what we have to do, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think about that? Do we need to do any sort of onboarding or, knowledge exchange session to get more people in a place where they can own that stuff?
I don't know. To be fair, I think we really need to get started on it.
Yeah, yeah.
And
But it's like you're probably busy, so who do we want to have getting on this? Are other SIGs
I
aware?
think when we have a, sorry.
Oh, you go ahead. You were trying to answer my question.
Yeah, maybe we should wait for the more broad Sigilist group to be here and that we discuss how exactly we want to approach this, because this is a little bit of a sensitive topic, especially promoter stuff. Like, do we want to start with a proposal? Do we want to start with just somewhat shy to see how we can fix it and then work based on that? Do we already
Marco, we
have
have
any
a
ideas?
project board about this. We did this already, okay? Like I don't want to do it again. We have issues specifically pointing to how we're actually going to tackle some of the issues with the image promoter. We just need people to be able to pick up that work. So, we did that part.
I'm bringing this because I feel like we need a little bit of more details.
Okay,
Like,
so that
I think we have a very clear understanding of the problem, but not really clear understanding of how we can solve this.
right, but that's why the issues in the project board were about developing those ideas. It's about investigating today, drafting proposals, getting findings, sharing them with the group. That's all documented already. The whole point is of the project board, we have to figure out these things. We covered it.
I think maybe I am mistaken. I'm looking at the project board right now. I feel like we are very focused on, like, from my perspective, I think we should really get promo tools back on its feet and like make it do what is already there. Like, for example, image signing. We really need to make that work again before we talk about extending it. I feel like we are missing some tickets there for this first part. We have a bunch of tickets, but I think those are very useful, but more focused on the extension part once we actually have a working base. I think we should try to find some more stuff like about how to actually fix it.
Okay, that was what we talked about though. Like if there was stuff that we didn't discuss, then that just is how it happened. But that whole goal was to understand how things are working today, document how it is today, figure out what are the risks today, what is taking so long today. That's what the whole project board is. That's what I was hearing during the conversations. And, we even went through these issues one by one with the group. So if that didn't get covered, if there's something missing, you should just add it because.
Yeah, maybe we can start from there, like try to add what's missing.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great. Okay. Yeah, maybe we're done.
Yeah, I guess we could finish for today.
All right. Yeah, we'll see you in Slack and the next meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for taking care of this.
Yeah, no worries.